All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another Sunday stream. Forgot to do this before we went off. It is going to be a bit of a hot one today, so that rumbling, whirring you're hearing is my air conditioning. That's going to be happening off and on throughout these streams, so I apologize if it's very loud. I'm also trying not to wake my poor boyfriend up. He's having a bit of a crappy week, so later on today we're gonna go to the county fair and pet some goats, because he really needs to pet a goat right now. Anyways, before we get started, I actually have a very exciting announcement. Let me get this. Let me pull this up. Okay, so I'm sure if you are familiar with some of the goings on in the indie comic sphere, I'm sure you guys have probably heard that John Bua, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, or John's Longbox, as some of you would know him a little bit better, he is starting this project called Crisis on Independent Earth. It's kind of a play on Crisis on Infinite Earths, but it's, the independent sphere. And basically, we're going to be contributing a few pages to the project. And I was told that, yes, I'm going to be part of it. I submitted a pitch, and I was accepted in. That's what happened there. It wasn't just a yeah, but yeah, I'm going to be contributing some pages to the project. And my character Skylar from Next Evolution is going to be in Crisis on Independent Earths. Um, we have just started like the mock script stage. He said it was fine, just need to fix a few things with the dialogue. And the deadline is January 1st. It's a very generous, uh, that's a very generous deadline. So it's going to be a little while before we get the print files for that. But I will update all of you on what's going on. I'm probably going to have Martin come up with a variant cover for the comic series. We were given the go-ahead to do that if we wanted to. And yeah, it is going to be a very exciting time. I was just so excited I had to write my script as soon as possible. But yeah, and we're also still working on the fourth issue of Next Evolution. Martin has been a little tied up with other projects, so the progress has been a little slower this time around. But we should be starting that right back up later on this month, and I will announce the campaign when it comes up. So, yay! Oh, a lot of exciting news right off the bat. I haven't even had my morning coffee yet. Anyways, so let us get to today's subject. The So the poll that we had, or that I put out last week, was for more comic stuff, more Warhammer stuff, or some general sci-fi fantasy. And it was a 50-50 split between comic book stuff and sci-fi and fantasy. And so I'm thinking, hey, I've been saying for the last few weeks that I've been wanting to cover some European comics or British comics. And I thought, hey, why don't we cover 2000 AD? And for those of you who are not aware, 2000 AD is the weekly British, like sci-fi oriented comic magazine. Comic magazines used to be a really big thing back in the 70s and 80s. They're not so big nowadays, but that's just because the youngins are more into TikTok and Instagram reels than they are comic books, but whatever. And looking at the start date, it started in 1977, and it's still going on. Like their website's still functioning, they're still putting out stuff, so I guess they're doing relatively okay for themselves. See if I can look at some old covers here. Let's see, images. Oh yeah, so yeah, for the 2000 AD is basically the home of Judge Dredd. So that's what pretty much everybody knows 2000 AD for. It's Judge Dredd. That's the Judge Dredd magazine. It's like, yeah, he was from there, but it's not just Judge Dredd. It's a lot of other things too. So yeah, it was very big into sci-fi. You got all sorts of sci-fi adventures. I've heard that there's been a couple of Western stories. There weird military stories in there, and they had all kinds of stuff. And if you listen to interviews from some British creators, specifically the ones that came in during the British invasion era back in the late 80s, early 90s, that's when a lot of British writers and artists were brought over from England to work on some Marvel and DC stuff. They will say that they either grew up reading 2000 AD or they have themselves contributed to 2000 AD. I believe Alan Moore and Grant Morrison, those are the two I can come up with on the top of my head, have contributed to 2000 AD at some point. I think Garth Ennis too. I think Garth Ennis wrote a couple of Judge Dredd stories. But anyway, yeah, 2000 AD was a big, massive influence on a lot of British sci-fi writers. And you are probably going to notice they were a big influence on Warhammer, just in general. You're like Judge Dredd is basically one of the wings of the Arbitros. Like it's basically just a Judge Dredd reference. But there are quite a few other things that the Warhammer creators took from 2000 AD, and I'm sure if you are familiar with both comics and Warhammer, you could probably pick up. Forgot to share this tab. I thought it was just gonna follow me. Nope. Here we go. Here's some cool covers. But yeah, it is a very influential magazine, even if it's not in its heyday era anymore. So basically, it was kind of sort of I don't want to say it was the heavy metal of England, because heavy metal was a little bit more on the mature side of things. Like, there was a time when you could pick up a heavy metal magazine, and not only would you see some bare breasts, but you would also see some bush, because 80s. Yeah, the heavy metal movie, watching that for the first time was such a trip for me, because I'm just like, whoa, nudity, just straight up nudity. I mean, that's not something I was complaining about, but it's like, oh, bush, okay. Anyways, so I do have a couple of a couple of videos that we can watch together. So come on, be good. All right, ignore that. Which one to start? How about we start with a video straight from the horse's mouth? This is 2000 AD 101. All right, modern day.
Hello, thrill seekers everywhere, and welcome to the 2000 AD YouTube channel. Now, we're here today because one of the things we hear a lot from people who would love to get into 2000 AD is, what is 2000 AD? Why is it important? What kind of thing can we expect if we start reading? So, this video is all about what is 2000 AD. Think of it as a 2000 AD 101. Where we're going to give you the information you need to know in order to start reading 2000 AD. And really, it's not that complicated to begin with. So let us begin the 2000 AD top 10. Number 1, 2000 AD is actually edited by a green-skinned polystyrene cup-eating alien called Tharg the Mighty, and has been ever since King's Reach Tower first landed in London in 1977.
Wait, what? He just said a lot of information right there. What?
Top 10. Number 1, 2000 AD is actually edited by a green-skinned polystyrene cup-eating alien called Tharg the Mighty, and has been ever since King's Reach Tower.
Oh my gosh, they have their own fictional editor. Oh, that's kind of cute. So whenever they do the letters to the editor, they would be addressed by this guy. That's actually kind of a fun concept. All right, come on. Come on. Get out of the thing. All right.
first landed in London in 1977. Ever since then, Tharg the Mighty and his droids, who produce every issue of 2000 AD, have been bringing you the best thrills that the galaxy can offer. Do not be fooled by these fleshy exosuits. We are actually robots. Slaved to desks, we produce every issue of 2000 AD to the absolute top spectrum that we possibly can. Number 2, which stands for Prog 2. Now, those of you who don't know, Prog stands for program. For we are not so gauche as the rest of the comic book industry to have issues. We have programs which are beamed directly into your optical nerve centers every Wednesday. Prog 2 is actually the second issue of 2000 AD, which Judge Dredd, our most popular character, first debuted in March 1977. Number 3 is the number of strips that are in this week's 2000 AD. Prog 1900 is the perfect issue for new or lapsed readers, featuring the work of the Judge Dredd co-creators John Wagner and Carl Sesquera, Stickleback by Ian Edgington and Disraeli, and Kingdom by Dan Abnett and Richard Elson. These are 3 thrill-packed strips that are absolutely spot on if you want to get into or get back into 2000 AD. Number 4, we've already mentioned him. He is the lawman of the future, the biggest character to have come out of 2000 AD. He is Judge Joseph Dredd, and he keeps the law on the streets of Mega City 1. You may have seen the 2012 movie starring Carl Urban and Olivia Thirlby. We won't talk about.
I think if you're a little confused on the whole where do I start, the point of the comics magazine is it's more of a showcase. It's not supposed to be, oh yeah, you start at like issue blah blah blah, and then you go from there, like with comic books. No, it was very much just a comic book magazine, and I'm harkening back to that video about the Warhammer comic books. I think the big reason why, because they're a British company, the big reason why they didn't think a full print comic book series would work for Warhammer is because they were taking cues from 2000 AD, which was the biggest comic book magazine. And they're like, well, why the hell would they want to stick around for, just one story when they would want multiple stories? Like we see this here with this 2000 AD magazine. They would want multiple stories. They don't want just one story. So they probably were taking cues from 2000 AD. I'm trying to get the base coat here as good as I can because I want to at least get something down. But I'm planning on, because he has a big power claw, and I want to paint his power claw a slightly different shade of blue to make it look like it was attached onto him, because it does look like it's been attached onto him.
The other one. But Judge Dredd is in every issue of 2000 AD and has been going through an absolute incredible phase over the last 5 to 10 years. Just recently, you may have heard about the Chaos Day storyline, which ran for a year in 2000 AD. This was absolutely incredible. While other comic strips reset on a regular basis, Chaos Day completely did away with the status quo. Mega City 1, 400 million people. Chaos Day, down to 50 million people. And so Dredd now patrols a ruined city where the judges are under constant pressure to do their job. John Wagner and Carl Sesquera both returning to Judge Dredd for Prog 1900. It's an absolute pearl of a story where Judge Dredd is assigned to a single Mega City 1 block and must deal with the day-to-day problems of ordinary people in Mega City 1. Number 5.
If I remember correctly from Judge Dredd, I did read a little bit up on him. I'm not the biggest Judge Dredd fan. Well, I'm not really a fan at all, but I have read up a little bit on Judge Dredd, and he's actually, well, first off, he's a clone, and I think he's technically only 5 years old, which is very funny to think about. But he's also considered one of the more level-headed judges. Yeah, the guy who screams, "I am the law," is the more level-headed judge, because there are some who are quite a bit more extreme than him. And he has, on occasion, put them in their place. So yeah.
Is the average number of strips you will find in 2000 AD on a weekly basis. We are a 32-page weekly comic book. It is available both in print and online. You will find stories by some of the industry's top creators every week in 2000 AD. Number 6, talking about those creators, 2000 AD has given a break to the biggest names in comics. Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, Mark Miller, Garth Ennis, Simon Bisley, Jock, Fraser Irving. These are the names that you know and love from the comics you read every month. But 2000 AD is the proving ground for some of the greatest talent to have come out of British comics. So reading today, you're seeing the comic stars of the future. Number 7, we've already talked about Judge Dredd, but we have an entire galaxy of characters from 2000 AD, not just the classics that you may know about, such as Rogue Trooper, such as Halo Jones, Bad Company, Strontium Dog, ABC Warriors. We're also talking about a new generation of characters that are coming through right now. We've got Ichabod Azrael, which is a fantastic Western set demon.
Oh, he looks really cool. He also looks a lot like Solomon Kane, but with guns. Well, Solomon Kane has his musket and his other handgun, but you know, not modern one. That's what I meant.
Hell series by Rob Williams, and the new series is starting with art by Mike Dowling in Prague 1901. We have series such as Zombo and Chikara, both of them illustrated by the superlative Henry Flint. Zombo written by Al Ewing, who many people will know is making a name for himself at Marvel Comics at the moment. Number 8, 2000 AD is available not only in print through comic book stores and newsagents, but is also available online. You can either access us through your iPad, because we have an iOS app through Apple Newsstand, or you can get DRM-free digital issues from our online shop at shop.2000AD.
I actually think I have a digital. It was way back in the COVID years where they were making available certain issues of the Judge Dredd series for free for people to read at home because we were all stuck at home. I might dig that up because I think I got the Apocalypse War. Hold on. Which one do I have? I know I have one. Judge Dredd Case Files 5. So I'm thinking that's the Apocalypse War. Hold on. They're PDFs. Yeah. I got that one. Come on. Stop being a butt. Alright, so yeah, this was the one by, written by John Wagner and Alan Grant. Progs 208 to 720. Alright, and that would be, yeah, the Apocalypse Wars, wouldn't it? The style is so 80s. Alright, anyways.
Online.com. Number 9. We don't just publish 2000 AD, we also have a huge range of graphic novels which are also available online. If you're in North America, they're available through Diamond and through Simon & Schuster, so you can get them in Barnes &
How old is this video again? Yeah, not available through Diamond anymore. Alright, okay, so this is 11 years ago, so not the newest, but still.
Noble and your local comic book store. We also have a brand new range of US format comics that are available worldwide. You may have seen our one-shot Dredd Underbelly sequel tie-in comic to the 2012 movie with Carl Urban and Olivia Thirlby. This is being followed up later this year by Dredd Uprise, written by Arthur Wyatt, drawn by Paul Davidson. We also are currently going through Brass Sun at the moment, 6-part series by Ian Edgington and Ian J. Culbard, which is amazing clock punk science fiction fantasy series set in a clockwork solar system. It's absolutely incredible. You really need to pick that up. We've also just published Jaeger by Gordon Rennie and Simon Colby. You may know Gordon from his work on Department of Monsterology, and Simon from his work on the Royals for Vertigo Comics. Jaeger is set in the world of Rogue Trooper, but is a beautiful standalone story about a war crimes investigator on the baddie side of Rogue Trooper in this future war on a poisoned Earth. It's absolutely fantastic. And how can we forget Judge Dredd magazine, 2000 AD's sister magazine for over 20 years now. This is a monthly print magazine, but also available online, which gives a little bit more space to stories set in Dredd's world. You also get fantastic feature content and a special bagged reprint edition of classics from the past of 2000 AD. Number 10 is Zarjaz. Now, as I've already explained, 2000 AD is...
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, that mustache absolutely screams. What was it? Yeah, 2015. That mustache definitely screams 2015.
Edited by Tharg the Mighty, all hail Tharg, who hails from the planet Quaxan in the Beetlejuice system. Zarjaz is Beetlejuician for good, for excellent, for absolutely thrill-packed, mind-blowingly wonderful. Other Beetlejuician sayings include Borag Thung, which means welcome, and Splundig Verthrig, which means goodbye. Earthlets are referred to as Squoxdek Thargo if they read 2000 AD. And then if an Earthlet does something to serve thrill power, then they can be awarded a Krill Tro Thargo. Don't worry if you don't get the lingo straight away. Before long, you'll be referring to other Earthlets as Squoxdek Thargo and saying Splendid Verthrig every time you say goodbye.
Looks like he... Okay, am I the only one who noticed his face at the end? It kind of looks like he was being held against his will. But, okay, yeah, so 2000 AD kind of had its own lingo, had its own little charm. But how about we look into their most underrated characters?
Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you've heard of 2000 AD and think it's all just about Judge Dredd, then nope, think again. Today we've got something fun in store for you. We're going to take a deep dive into the sci-fi universe of this British comics anthology and explore 10 of the most underrated characters from 2000 AD. So don't expect to see Judge Dredd himself on this list, but expect a whole lot more, from space vampires to time-twisting assassins. Get comfortable, grab a drink, and let's get started. Before we get into our list, though, we do have a very quick request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Nikolai Dante. Okay, so imagine Errol Flynn had a baby with, like, Han Solo, and that baby was raised by Russian pirates, and that's basically Nikolai Dante. Created by Robbie Morrison and Simon Fraser, Dante made his debut in 1997. It was the 27th century, and Imperial Russia had taken control of Earth and an interstellar domain, and there was war waging between two rival dynasties. Enter Dante, a swashbuckling ladies' man who's also a thief. P.S. He steals more than just hearts. Dante finds out that he's the illegitimate son of the powerful Romanov family, who were rivals to the Tsar, Vladimir the Conqueror of the House of Makarov. And somehow, this charming pirate-coated playboy becomes our reluctant hero, that too with a living bioweapon implanted in his body called the Weapon's Crest. This allows him to extend bioblades from his body and hack into computer systems. That's a pretty cool power, we have to say. What's special about Dante's story is that it's the perfect blend of politics, action, and even romance. Of course, our hero romances someone from the rival dynasty, Jenna, until war breaks out between the two clans.
As you do as a swashbuckling ladies' man.
And they naturally have to break things off at least. But guess what? Dmitri, the Romanov patriarch, dies and Vladimir wins, which makes Dante the most wanted man in the empire. That's why he joins his mother, Katerina Dante's pirate crew, and his story is just beginning. Fun fact, one of his story titles, Russia's Greatest Love Machine, is taken from a lyric from the Boney M song, Rasputin. Indigo Prime. Yeah, we know this one isn't really a character and more of an organization, but it's still a pretty underrated series that definitely deserves more attention and love, especially with how cool its agents are. Indigo Prime is basically an agency that exists outside of time and reality and looks after the multiverse and fixes breaks, distortions, alternate realities, and the like. It's similar to the Time Variance Authority from Marvel. Remember the TVA from Loki? Well, this is the 2000 AD version. Indigo Prime's headquarters is located at this hypothetical null zone, which exists outside the multiverse, and like every organization, they too are ready to bend the rules as long as the money's good, but never at the cost of the multiverse. At least, not yet. And what about the agents? Well, they pick agents who are dead or dying across realities and have the Rembrandt Index gene. And let me tell you, this gene is rare. It occurs only in 1 in 12 million people across the multiverse. Then, these people are trained, given a new body, and prepped to become agents of Indigo Prime and take up one of 3 roles. Scene shifters, who manipulate the physical world, seamsters, who deal mainly with time, and Imagineers, who can influence minds and dreams. What's interesting is that fans have noted Indigo Prime's stories as weird and high concept. Some think it's a skip and not their cup of tea, but if you're into weird sci-fi, give this a shot and let us know what you think. Sinister Dexter. Who is Sinister Dexter? Well,
He looks like Blade.
the correct question would actually be, who are Sinister Dexter? That's right, they're a duo of professional hitmen who work for the underworld's biggest mob bosses. Finnegan Sinister and Ramon Dexter are basically gun sharks in the city called Download. They get their contracts from this PDA-like device called Fact Totem, and mostly worked for the big dog crime lord, Holy Moses Tannenbaum. But then there's a twist in the story, and someone's put a hit on Holy Moses himself. So, of course, he suspects that Sinister and Dexter will take up the job, so he sends his people to kill them first. But our dynamic duo isn't backing down that easily. Instead, they kill the men sent after them and take up the hit placed on Moses. Of course, they eventually get to him, and in a crazy near-death encounter, manage to kill him off. And that's when we find out who actually put the hit on top boss Holy Moses. Well, turns out it was his wife. There's action, fun, and a whole lot of style. Low-key, a bit like a Tarantino film. As for powers, they aren't superheroes, they're just guns for hire who have impeccable training. They're very good with firearms, tactical operations, and of course, surviving crazy jobs. I mean, not jobs. This is a duo that fans actually adore. They praise the setting of Download City and think that Sinister Dexter deserves their own standalone series. Did you guys know Sinister at one point undergoes plastic surgery? You've got to read the comics to find out what happens. Tyranny Rex. It's time to scale things up, pun intended, because we're going to talk about a reptilian punk goddess, aka Tyranny Rex. Created by John Smith and Steve Dillon in the 1980s, she's half human and half saurian. In fact, she's the last of her reptile humanoid race, which was wiped out due to massacres. She started out as this smart and confident gene thief who stole DNA and cloned celebs like stars. Sounds like somebody we'd want to be friends with. And then, eventually, she became an artist, as if she couldn't get any cooler. She was also a mercenary at one point in time, and weirdly enough, became a nun for 7 years too. She's basically been all over the place. With her devil-may-care attitude, she's also clashed with agents of Indigo Prime. Of course, being a Sauron, she's hella strong and has a prehensile tail, but she also has an implant in her neck, which lets her interface directly with any computer system. But guess what? Tyranny didn't originally have green skin, and at some point she changed, which means that the art changed and her skin became green. Of course, fans joked that maybe this was her hitting puberty. However, fans have unfortunately said that her stories are often too convoluted and confusing. Sounds like she just needs more of them. Justice for Tyranny Rex. Bad Company's Kano. Ever heard of Bad Company? It was basically this squad of misfits and freaks, low-key psychopaths who banded together to fight the war against the alien Cruel on the planet Ararat in 2210 AD. And Kano
Kind of looks like an orc, or more Frankenstein. Frankenstein with augmentations.
was none other than the leader of this scary group. He has one hell of a backstory too. Kano used to be just like us, a human with a wife and a child. Then his family died and he joined the army to fight the Cruels with a whole lot of integrity. He even thought that Cruel prisoners should be treated humanely, but that all went to shit when Kano was captured by the Cruel and experimented upon. They removed half of his human brain and replaced it with a Cruel brain to see if they could create a more advanced race. And not only was the experiment a failure, it also drove Kano mad because of the incompatibility between the brains. He did indeed escape captivity but he was no longer the Kano we once knew. He was now just this deranged, hate-fueled misfit who joined the bad company to extract revenge and wage his war on the Cruel. There's also a major story arc where Kano gets possessed and controlled by the Cruel, who still have the other half of his brain, and how he often goes on murderous rampages because of it. It's all very dark, gritty, and sci-fi, and you've absolutely got to give it a read. Well,
That does sound like a very cool concept.
Kano isn't exactly super. He does have strength enhancements because of the Cruel experimentation, which was to create ruthless killing machines. He's also, of course, a tactical genius. What's interesting and why you should watch it is that this series was described as a kind of Vietnam War in space mix, which is very different from what 2000 AD usually does. Zenith. Now we've got a classic superhero.
Yeah, I remember Zenith. I watched a documentary about Grant Morrison, and Zenith was brought up as not the first of his forays into comic books, but the one that put him on the map.
On our hands, except he isn't your typical hero at all, more like a narcissistic pop star. Zenith was born to superhero parents White Heat and Dr. Beat, who were members of the 1960s super team Cloud9, so you can already imagine that Zenith must be really full of himself with being a third-gen superhero and having a whole soup family and whatnot. But it doesn't even end there. This guy is vain and selfish to the point that he mostly uses his powers to push forward his career as a pop star more than for justice. But he did get roped into some high-stakes super battles against a Lovecraftian-level creature called Loigor, the Many-Angled Ones. And honestly, he was pretty effective in the battle and actually helped to save the multiverse, until he eventually returned to his lavish, self-centered lifestyle. We guess he earned it, but still. As for his superpowers, it's the usual: flight, strength, and durability, along with telekinesis and telepathy. What's important to note here is that Zenith was one of the earliest attempts at deconstructing the superhero genre and pulling off a satire without becoming too dark. Oh, and fun fact, there were some heavy legal battles over who actually owns Zenith, and it became one of the most talked about controversies in British comics history. Crazy, right? Halo Jones. Alan Moore and Ian Gibson came up with
Halo
this character
Jones.
to finally do justice to the women depicted in 2000 AD. Did they succeed? Let's find out. They created the Ballad of Halo Jones with 3 words in mind: girl, rocket, and monsters. And yet, it's considered one of 2000 AD's most human stories. Why? Because Halo Jones isn't some mercenary or warrior, she's just a girl trying to escape her life on the Hoop. The Hoop is this floating slum orbiting Earth full of dead-end jobs and low stats, but our girl wants more from life. Her journey takes her from shoplifting on a space station to joining an interstellar war, and somehow she's still relatable at her core. In fact, Alan Moore once described her as the first real woman in comics, and trust us, we're not exaggerating. She has no superpowers whatsoever. All she has is her fighting spirit, her resilience, and her ability to adapt. But we have bad news. While Alan Moore had originally planned for 9 books, there arose some creative differences between their vision and 2000 AD, which led to the comic run ending prematurely. We unfortunately only got 3 books, and Halo's story was cut short. But we do get to see a short cameo of Halo Jones in Nikolai Dante's series, where she's at this party hosted by the Makarovs, all while wearing the color of their rivals, red. Typical Halo Jones. Nemesis the Warlock. Okay, now we're replacing guns with magic because it's time for our morally gray, fire-breathing, horned alien sorcerer, Nemesis the Warlock. This story's set in the future where humanity has become this fascist, xenophobic regime called Termite, ruled by a zealot who believes that aliens equals evil. Enter Nemesis, a chaos-worshipping, literally, alien warlock ready to wage a war against human tyranny. Even more so because he believes that his wife and son were killed by Terminators under the orders of Torquemada. But mind you, he isn't your typical hero at all. He ain't noble or virtuous, and he's actually very much like Torquemada himself. In one story arc, Nemesis gets engaged to another warlock, Magna. But little does he know that she was the one who actually betrayed his wife, Kyra, and son, Toth. Then, on their wedding day, he got news that Toth was still alive. Magna was so surprised that for a moment she dropped her psychic guard, allowing Nemesis to read her mind. Of course, Nemesis wasted no time in killing her for what she had done, and then taking off to find his son. Now, as for powers, this guy is one powerful son of a bitch. Of course, he's got those magic powers and sorcery, but it doesn't end.
He has a very interesting design too. He kind of looks like he has the head of a shovel. He has a shovel head.
There, he also has dimensional travel, shapeshifting, fire breathing, teleporting, wiping people's memories, telekinesis, summoning demons, and even making people fall in love. That last one's a little gross. We don't want to know how he uses that, but aside from that, we've got to mention his semi sentient spaceship, Blitzspear. I mean, what a ride! Durham Red. Now, this one's exciting because we've got some vampire action for you guys. Because of radioactive fallout, Durham Red was born with a mutation that made her resemble a vampire, but she wasn't exactly supernatural or anything. She joined the Search/Destroy agency as a bounty hunter, where she met Johnny Alpha and had a love affair with him that ultimately ended prematurely. However, after Johnny died, she became tired of life and entered suspended animation, hoping to be awoken years later. But nope, she awoke like 1,000 years later to see a world where the divide between humans and mutants was even greater. And because she was a mutant who drank and survived on human blood, she was worshipped and revered by the mutants. She lived for so long that she actually witnessed the end of humanity and the rise of a new race of mutants. Naturally, she's super strong, has a prolonged lifespan, heightened senses, and is one hell of a fighter and bounty hunter. Fun fact, she's often referred to as Strontium Bitch. And she's appeared in more 2000.
I find it so funny that Alan Moore is like, oh yeah, Halo Jones is like the first woman in comics, and it's like literally 2 spots later, it's like, by the way, here's this cool vampire chick. I'm guessing that was Alan Moore trying to sound feminist because I don't know. I find it very strange how he's in some interviews he's like, yeah, I just want to write characters as good as possible, and then he switches over of, I'm more like the female characters like this, and it's really good and feminist, and it's like, why are you even bringing that up? It's like, first of all, when it comes to Alan Moore and comic books, like women in comic books, he has a very interesting track record there. Uh, Basically, in almost not every one of his topics or every one of his works, but in all of the like big ones, sexual assault is is a thing that happens in it. Whether it's The Killing Joke, where you have Barbara Gordon who was shot in the spine and it is implied that the Joker raped her. Apparently he didn't, but it was heavily implied. Or you got Watchmen, where the comedian was trying to rape Silk Spectre's mother, and then you get it's why am I blanking on the name here? It's like the tie-in for his Lovecraftian series where a woman gets raped by one of the fishmen, and then you got V for Vendetta where the girl, she is almost raped by the Fingerman. And then you get the Lost Girls, which apparently there's a lot of rape in there. I do not want to get that series because I read the synopsis and it's like, I feel like I would be put on a list if I got this one. So that's a nope from me. But yeah.
80s spin offs and alternate continuities than almost any other female character. You gotta check her out if you haven't already. Shakara. We're ending this list with a banger. So,
Ooh.
this alien Avenger, created by Robbie Morrison and Henry Flint, talks mostly by shouting his own name while absolutely destroying enemies. Remind you of anyone? Hulk Smash, maybe? Except Shakara is much, much darker and even more destructive. Shakara was resurrected to avenge his murdered race. I mean, his tagline is literally, Vengeance has a new name. He basically travels the universe and wipes out the corrupt species responsible. Of course, he's hella superpowered. He's near indestructible, has a high-tech suit, and is capable of insane levels of destruction. Basically, don't mess with Shakara. And the art for this series is so good that Henry Flint's art for Shakara is said to be some of the...
His design looks extremely familiar. Rumble, that's what I'm thinking of from Image Comics. I followed this series called Rumble and I really liked it. Basically, a barbarian. I think like his body died and his soul takes over this like scarecrow. And so this scarecrow figure is going around trying to find his body again, and that doesn't work out. And it was a very good series, but they ended it prematurely and then they brought it back under a different title and it really pissed me off, so I just on principle refused to get the new series. Yeah.
Best in 2000 AD history. Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Marvelous verdict. So we gotta say, 2000 AD isn't just Judge Dredd, it's so much more. From bounty hunters and guns for hire to half-human, half-reptiles and even vampires, this universe genuinely has it all. So go track down these obscure, underrated series and dive deeper into the lore of 2000 AD. We'll be waiting for you on the other side. And if you find any more interesting characters we haven't covered here, let us know. Maybe we'll make a whole video about them. As always, remember to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this content. We'll see you next time.
I think that's the 2000 AD video again. Sorry, I'm quite quiet. I'm trying to figure out the angling of this. I really should have painted these before I assembled it. All right. This one looks like it's a bit too long. So how about we get to how 2000 AD influenced Watchmen from Wired?
Short crowd, button shot, cut so clean. But the 55's on, all is going green. WC, we call him in, you know what I mean. What's his name? Sugar 17, oh.
You know, American comics came out of the tradition of the Sunday newspaper supplement. So they were very strong on graphics and colour. Whereas British comics had grown out of text magazines with added illustrations. And we kind of mixed the two of them together. And we always wanted to do comics. Myself, Brian Bolland, Alan Moore, Kevin O'Neill, Mick McMahon, everybody who ended up in the 2000 AD clubhouse. We were the lunatics who took over the asylum. I remember the first time I came to New York, I wasn't interested in the Empire State Building or Statue of Liberty. What I wanted to see were the fire hydrants in the street that Jack Kirby used to draw, or the water towers on the top of the downtown buildings.
This is making me think of during the World Cup when the Europeans were coming over and they saw the yellow school buses and like, oh my god, the yellow school buses, they're real. They're real. I thought these were made up. And I was like, you thought we invented a whole vehicle just to screw with you guys? So that's very funny.
That Steve Ditko used to draw in his Spider-Man comics. And I think that was vital to the way that we did Watchmen. We could stand back from the conventions of American comics and see them slightly differently. And I vividly remember the comic convention in London in 1980, and they had people dressed up as the Marvel characters. The Hulk had a big muscle suit, and he kept fainting because it was so hot. And Wolverine was kind of asthmatic. He couldn't breathe in his costume, you know, and Spider-Man was having trouble with his jock strap and, you know, couldn't quite get comfy. And and that was perhaps prophetic because, you know, what Alan and I later did with Watchmen was to imagine how it would really be to wear these costumes. When I was growing up, I was a mod, okay? I had a scooter and all that kind of thing, and I was interested in black dance music and everything. Alan was clearly of the hippie persuasion, a really tall guy with long hair and a beard and a suit that was a couple of sizes too small and a big plastic bag.
Yeah, that's no surprise for me. No surprises here.
Bag full of comics, and I got some of his stories to draw, and I immediately could see that he really was a singular talent. You know, when you draw comic books, the worst thing in the world is to have to spend months drawing something that somebody has just written very quickly and just sloughed off. Alan never does that, so his work would spur me on to put even more effort into it. It's easy to forget what it was like in the 80s. There was a very real threat of nuclear war. Alan had this vivid experience one day where he saw some police horses, like with gas masks on. They were ready for a riot and they were going to use tear gas. And there was a sense of unreality about it, and also a sense of what can we do? What can you possibly do? And I mean, Watchmen in a way is about that. How can you resolve these fast and impossible things? One of the characters says, nothing ever ends. You might have resolved it for now, but nothing ever ends.
Oh yeah, Dr. Manhattan. I do love that line of nothing ever ends, just because I am convinced that that was his way of punishing Ozymandias towards the end. This is going to be spoilers for Watchmen, but basically, Ozymandias was the one who was behind everything. He was the one who killed off the comedian. He was the one who was secretly building like this psychic squid thing. He was the one who is behind the absolute like mass murder of so many people in New York City. And the thing that always bugged the crap out of me after reading Watchmen was Ozymandias didn't really get punished. He got away with it. He got away with all of it. And none of the Watchmen are happy about it. I know Night Owl and Silk Spectre, they more or less had to get over it. And then you got Rorschach, who was flat out killed by Dr. Manhattan, and Dr. Manhattan has decided he's just gonna fuck off to space because he's just tired of everything on Earth. But before he leaves, he finds Ozymandias in his little meditation room because the little shit has his own little meditation room that looks like it's an ancient Egyptian crypt. And he's talking about how, oh, I am mourning my humanity that I had to sacrifice for the greater good. And it's like, oh my god, cry me a river. But anyways, Ozymandias asks Dr. Manhattan, like, it's over now, right? Like, it's finished, it's over, we don't have to do something like this again. We did bring the world together. And Dr. Manhattan's like, over? What are you talking about? Nothing is ever forever. And then he leaves. And I think he did that specifically to put like doubt and fear into Ozymandias's mind, with a reminder of, look, you did all this for nothing. Like, this is going to happen again. The world is going to go into chaos again. So what are you going to do? Murder another couple million people to bring the world together? And I think that was Dr. Manhattan's way of punishing Ozymandias for what he did.
It wasn't just another comic book, it was something singular and special and different.
Alright, so Judge Dredd gets 10 minutes off per day. Yeah, I have gone through a little bit of the Judge Dredd, kind of the world and all that, and it is absolutely bonkers and insane. And you can definitely see where Warhammer was taking inspiration for specifically the Hive worlds. And like, as I said, Judge Dredd was the more sensible of the judges. He was more level-headed because there were other judges who were just absolutely batshit crazy. But he was supposed to be like the more normal one, and he has like a lot of really bizarre rules that he needs to follow for himself. Like, they have these sleeping chambers where 15 minutes gets you like a full night's rest, or I forget how it was with eating and stuff like that, but yeah, he basically is on patrol all the time. And that's kind of the point. He's supposed to be like the perfect judge. That's why he was cloned in the first place. This looks like absolute shit. Alright. Transform Comics. We forgot about him. I'll look into that another day. But let's see if we can find another short 2000 AD. Yeah, I can't do that. That's 40 minutes. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything. anything shorter than 40 minutes. Well, yeah, the argument of did Watchmen ruin the comic book industry? I will say till the day I die that I do not believe it was Watchmen itself that ruined the comic book industry. I don't think Alan Moore set out to do irreparable damage to more of how writers approach writing comics, because there are quite a few people out there who are trying to be this generation's Alan Moore. They want to be this generation's Alan Moore. And to that, I always say, you are not Alan Moore. You will never be Alan Moore. And sometimes even Alan Moore isn't Alan Moore, because sometimes he messes up too. Like, sometimes he messes up really badly. But I think because of the success of Watchmen, everybody wanted to make their own Watchmen without really understanding that Watchmen was just supposed to be its own thing. It wasn't supposed to be the new standard of how we approach writing comic books. It was just supposed to be a what-if story. It was supposed to be a one-off thing. But because so many people wanted to make their own Watchmen, they started really annoying the crap out of everybody. Because, look, I like Watchmen as much as the next comic book reader, but I don't want everything to be Watchmen. I don't want everything to be grimdark. I don't want everything to be, deconstruction or trying to, like, how would this really be? Or how would this character really react? How would they really be like in the real world? I don't want that for all of my comic books. And I don't think anybody wants that for all of their comic books. Sometimes we just want some silly fun. Like, that's literally all we want sometimes. Yeah, this guy's gonna take a few painting sessions. I should have started with the breastplate before I did the gun. Mistakes are made, but we will prevail. Do. All right. And get a little bit here. I know I'm being very boring right now. I'm just super focused on getting this looking at least somewhat decent. But yeah, he definitely looks like crap right now. But once we get all this cleaned up in the next session, I'm thinking about making this bit on the glove like golden, and then dry brushing some silver on it. And I made his helmet red this time because some of the Ultramarines do have red helmets. It's like a send-off to one of the Ultramarines in the Horus Heresy who showed absolute bravery. I forget if it was like absolute bravery or he was right about something that the other soldiers did not want to acknowledge. I forget. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and put an end to this painting before I start hyperfixating. Alright, get your eye of your closed. And yeah, I know I started the stream a little bit late today, but I feel like this is all we can accomplish without going too far over. Like I said, I promised boyfriend that we are going to go pet goats today, and I don't want to keep him waiting for too long. So, thank you for watching today. I hope you liked the stream, and if you did like it, give it a like and comment down below of what you want me to react to next. And I will see you all next week. Bye!